Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. At the request of a donor, I am once again playing some Ninjas, which is a deck that I have quite a lot of fun with, so I'm quite glad to be playing this one. So what is Ninjas? Well, you know Psychic Frog. What if we play another 6 Psychic Frogs in Ingenious Infiltrator and Yuriko? So these, for a black and a blue, can come from your hand and replace an attacking creature you have that is not blocked. So the idea is, we play something like a Changeling Outcast here, which is unblockable, attack with it, turn it into a Yuriko or an Infiltrator, and then we've got ourselves a makeshift Psychic Frog. But what these cards do differently to Psychic Frog is they trigger on every ninja. So if we play this again and start attacking with it, this is then going to start accruing us the advantage of being a ninja. So even if they've got some scary blockers we can't attack into, we still just keep firing this in and having a good time. Pretty exciting to me. So why not run 10 Psychic Frogs? That's kind of what we're trying to do here. An interesting thing we're testing with this particular build is the absence of Ornithopter, which has been a staple in these sorts of decks for a while. However, Ornithopter struggles to get through in the modern day and age of Legacy because you have Psychic Frogs and Tamiyos which can both block it for relatively free if they want to, or just even kill it, so we can't even attack very profitably with the Ornithopter. The downside of that, though, is that if we are not playing an Ornithopter, we can't ponder into a creature to then deploy on the same turn. So on our turn 1 has to be an Outcast or a Tamiyo if we want to do ninjutsu stuff on turn 2. But because we just have the line of ponder into frog, which is also a very fine line, we have that option as well. We've got lots of disruption here, so we've got Fatal Pushes, we've got Brazen Borrower, Daze, Force of Will, Murderous Cut, Sink into Stupor, and a couple of Sheoldred's Edicts. We're just trying to leverage all these extra cards and tempo our opponents out. We can do like a temporary game plan, or we can do a mid-range game plan where we just end up with more game pieces than our opponent because we're drawing all these extra cards, which is a nice way to be. Kaito is the newest addition to this deck, and it has really impressed me so far. So you can ninjutsu this in for 3 mana, and it's a 3/4 attacker with hexproof, and you can pump it up to give all your ninjas +1/+1, and that's an emblem, so it never goes away. Or you can surveil 2 and draw a card if an opponent lost life this turn, which is almost certainly going to happen when you activate it. And then you have -2, tap target creature, put 2 stun counters on it. We've used this in the past to stop some giant monsters that have been reanimated, and that seems like a really good lever to pull. The good thing about ninjutsu as well is the actual ninjutsu isn't counterable. You have to use like a stifle effect. They can't use a Force of Will or a Daze to stop a ninjutsu. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's what we're trying to leverage. We have 1 Orcish Bowmaster in the main. This is going to be complemented by 2 in the sideboard, so it might look funny just having 1, but this is a reasonable thing to bounce, and it's just a good card. We've got some other tools that you would probably expect to see here. So we've got some Graveyard Hate, we've got ourselves some Land Hate, some Red Hate, some Colourless Hate, some Artifact Hate, and the ability to blow up some 0-drops if we need to, or blow up some 1-drops, or whatever we require this to do. And that is basically the deck tech. I've played variations of this deck a few times, and I always have a really good time. I think Ninjas is a deck that is incredibly enjoyable to play, and considering blue-black these days are kind of miserable decks that everyone hates because they're too good, playing Ninjas is a little bit spicier, and hopefully we won't upset our opponents too much, but still beat them. Alright, remember to like and subscribe before we get started. It does help the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. And if you do want to spend some money, I have a Patreon, and I also have a YouTube membership program for £1 a month where you get access to my videos early. Let's do some ninjaing. We are on the play. We have too many lands for me to keep this on. Even though Psychic Frog is a powerful game object, I just don't think we can keep a hand that looks like this. This seems like a much stronger hand. We're probably putting back the Brainstorm, I think, here. Our deck is also very basic land heavy, which is quite important. We don't have Wastelands, where some Ninja decks in the past would have Wastelands, but I have been preferring these builds without Wasteland for quite some time now. Let's keep this. Let's get back this Brainstorm. Actually, do you want to keep the Brainstorm? If we keep the Brainstorm, we can flip the Tamiyo. Alright, we'll keep the Brainstorm. Let's go and get a basic island and deploy your friend of mine, Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. Polluted Delta from our opponents. The most common fetch land in Legacy right now. Basic island. They are having a ponder, so this means our Tamiyo is going to be able to generate a clue token, unless we see something really wild here for 0 mana, or a Lotus Petal and some other shenanigans. So our opponent could be a combo deck, they could be Reanimator, they could be a control deck. We just don't know. Okay, let's attack with our Tamiyo. I think given the nature of where we're sat right now, I might just Brainstorm here and just flip the Tamiyo and start going upstairs with it. Okay, I like one of these Outcasts. I don't like multiple of them. Am I putting back this Infiltrator or this Ponder? Probably the Ponder. We don't need the Ponder. We're going to be drawing cards with our little friends instead. Plus this. Go and fetch a basic Swamp. Deploy a 1 mana 1/1. But it can grow with the Kaito. So I really like how the Kaito makes this card actually relevant in the mid to late game a lot more. Because instead of just being a 1-1 unblockable, it can, you know, be a 3-3 unblockable. And just get those final points of damage over. And then if you have other ninjas, it starts to do some even grosser things too. We're kind of in Protect the Queen mode a little bit with this Tamiyo, if we can just keep this alive. The Flooded Strand might suggest our opponent is more towards the Esper, so they might have things like Prismatic Ending, which can deal with our Tamiyo. So we might have to point a Force of Will to keep our Tamiyo alive, or at least decide if that's a thing we want to do. I think I will attack with this Outcast. Why is it not letting me Ingenious Infiltrator here? Very strange. That is weird. It wouldn't let me Ingenious Infiltrator at all there. Not a big fan of seeing that. We're not activating the Tamiyo just yet in case we need to Force of Will and then do something else. I kind of just want another land here, really. I think we're going to any order and shuffle this one. Psychic Frog. We'll just plus the Tamiyo. Why did it not let us put our ninja in there? That seems like there might be a bug, which would be pretty awkward if we're trying to play ninjas and ninjutsu doesn't work. A Brainstorm from our opponent. That's fine. They're going to be able to shuffle away the bad cards using this Flooded Strand. Right, let's try ninjutsuing again and see if we can make it work this time. So we go to the block stage. This feels like a significant problem. If we can't actually ninjutsu any cards in. What am I missing here? I don't think I'm missing anything. I think it's just a bug that we're having to put up with right now. That is annoying. Not a big fan of that. I guess we just play a Psychic Frog. And we will go upstairs with the Tamiyo. So we're threatening to draw all the cards and make our Psychic Frog as large as we need. So we just Protect the Queen and Force of Will. A Brainstorm. I'm not enjoying the fact that our core mechanic here is not seeming to work. We don't care about this Terminus. We just want to protect the Tamiyo. If we draw half our library, that game should be unwinnable. Sorry, unlosable. We're going to shuffle before we get to those, so it doesn't matter what order they go on. Okay, can you answer our Tamiyo through a Force of Will opponent? I hope not. They could, like, Thoughtseize us first, and then Prismatic Ending our Tamiyo. Or they could have their own Force of Will to fight back. Scrub land, 6 cards left in their hand. We get some sort of Stifle effect. Let's draw 7 cards. Or draw all the cards even. Way more than 7. Many, many cards. So what are we playing this turn? We do need to actually win the game somehow. So let's play out a Psychic Frog, if we can find one, amongst this selection of cards. There's one. And we can play a Changeling Outcast as well. So we have a lot of Force of Wills. We have no maximum hand size because of the Tamiyo. We have to do a lot of scrolling to see all of our cards though. A Swords to Plowshares on our Psychic Frog. Fine, we have so many threats. One of them will stick and it'll be fine. A Snapcaster Mage. How many forces do we have? 1 force there. Daze. And another force. We only have 2 forces. Let's try and Daze this one. Because this stops them having to plow. Which is more or less all we care about anyway. A Force of Will. Okay. You really want this guy, do you? Still feels like bait to me, but I guess we're in such a commanding position we may as well just go for it anyway. They're unlikely to win any fights with the amount of cards we have in hand. Another Force of Will. Okay, let's get rid of a Yuriko and just Force of Will this one. Alright, our opponent's had enough, but we do have a problem. If Ninjutsu doesn't work, then I might have to put this league down and come back to it tomorrow. Let's get to sideboarding. So our opponent is on some sort of probably Esper, Control-y, Stonebladey type jam. So this is where the Orcish Bowmasters are going to look pretty tasty. The Harbinger of the Seas, unlikely to be where I want to be on this one. The Nihil Spellbombs are going to be cantrips that can mess with some of our opponent's things. They're probably fine. The Force of Wills are an interesting one. We kind of want them, but also if there's a fair matchup, we also don't really want them. We could just replace them for this. Our opponent is a bit bigger though. They've got things like the Luminous and stuff like that. I think I'd rather have some forces in these days. Our opponent's going to play around the days anyway. And if we're drawing lots of cards, the forces are still fine. This is probably not where I want to be. I think I'm going to mulligan this. This looks a lot better. We'll keep. We'll see how good our ninjutsu is and see if it actually works. I think we're actually going to put back the Infiltrator though, looking at our hand here. Do I want to ponder here? I don't think so. I think I'm going to hold up because if they have a Stoneforge or something, we want to fatal push that before we go to our turn so we can play the Psychic Frog on an empty board. We don't necessarily know exactly what program we're trying to, what problem we're trying to fix with a ponder anyway. Alright, they didn't do anything there. Let's get an island. Is Psychic Frog the bigger prize here? It probably is, so I'm going to deploy the Tamiyo as some bait. I don't believe our opponent's running a Daze, but it's possible. I'm not going to play like they do unless it's free for us to play around it for the most part. Probably looks like the deck is going bigger rather than being low to the ground. They didn't kill our creature at end step. That means they might have a removal spell, but they just can't afford to use it on the Tamiyo, which is a-okay with me. Attacks. Right, we're getting our clues. Carnival City, here we come. Sure, I'll throw out a ponder here. We can start cracking clues if we want. Do I want to have this Brainstorm? I think so. That allows us to transform our Tamiyo instant speed in response to removal. Island Cycling. Sure. We don't really want to crack our fetch land because that might be required for a Fatal Push to get Revolt if they play something bigger. I'm not really sure what they'd be playing bigger other than things like Triumph, which is going to be too big for a Fatal Push. At end step I will crack this though, so we can crack this clue. If our opponent wants to remove this, now is a good time. I'm happy just to accrue some card advantage. Tamiyo has already drawn us a card. A Brainstorm from our opponent. This is their opportunity to remove the Tamiyo without us having any shenanigans. Yep. So we've traded 2 for 1 here, so we end up with a card out of it. Okay, I'm going to play out Psychic Frog here. I'm going to hold up this Bowmasters because I don't want to extend too much. The Psychic Frog is good enough to warrant some like Supreme Verdict style cards. So they're going to get a white source here, so that's an option for them. Meticulous Archive. They left it on top. We're going to get Miracled here. We are going to get Miracled. This is why we didn't play out the Bowmasters, to avoid sweepers like this. Goodbye, Psychic Frog. And I will jump upon this Ponder. If they have a Plough, so be it. They have a Bowmasters of their very own. Okay. So this Ponder is not going to incur any additional penalties. It's not good being the first person to play the Bowmasters in the Bowmaster mirror. You want to be playing your second so you can kill theirs. So our opponent has much better position than we do right now. They only have 3 cards in hand. I would like to Fatal Push this Bowmaster so I can open up with this Brainstorm. A Yuriko, a Changing Outcast, a Brazen Borrower. I guess we'll put back Sheoldred's Edict here, and 2 Sheoldred's Edicts. I think it's probably both the Edicts here. Cut land. Let's attack. Are they going to trade here? Or are they going to give us a chance to put a Yuriko in? They're going to trade. So we can play out an Outcast. If we want to draw the Sheoldred's Edict, we can do that. If we don't, then we can shuffle it away. Let's find out if Ninjutsu is just bugged or if it was just that one game where it was having problems. There is a Ponder from our opponent into our open potential Bowmaster mana. They did not shuffle with the Ponder. Not ideal news for us. Let's go Plough. It's a pending. A Tamiyo. Okay, I think we want to draw a Sheoldred's Edict here. I don't want to fire it off though. Let's just play a Yuriko. Because if we try and fire this Sheoldred's Edict off, we choose the mode when we put it on the stack, so then our opponent can just Brainstorm and flip the Tamiyo. Plough on our poor defenseless Yuriko. This game feels pretty over at this point. And crack this clue. This is going to transform the Tamiyo. This is going to give us an opportunity to Sheoldred's Edict this. I'm not sure how many counter spells our opponent's going to have in their deck at this point. Let's try and Sheoldred's Edict this. We can wait to our turn, but we want to play things like Ingenious Infiltrator. Alright, we got a Force of Will. So we kind of are priced into doing it there, but Force of Will is going to catch it anyway. I'm not expecting Dazes. It doesn't matter when we play it for the most part. I don't want to play this Polluted Delta out. I would rather hold it. In our opponent's upkeep, I'm going to Petty Theft this so they can't get a card back. And now we have access to the Borrower, which can attack through the Tamiyo. But our opponent is going to have 2 cards left over after this. There is the Tamiyo. Can we get a Borrower? Now, our opponent's deck is chocked full of removal, so this might not be the most permanent object we have on the board. Let's attack. Do I want our opponent... This Tamiyo. Well, I don't like the way we've played this. What we should have done is did the Sheoldred's Edict in our first main phase, because if they flip the Tamiyo, then we can attack it. Yeah, that didn't feel good. So our opponent... yeah, this is the wrong way of doing this. We should have done this first. If they have a Brainstorm now, we're really punished. They've already been through 2 though. They might have a Snapcaster. Okay, a Bowmasters, pretty good. They take out our little friend. I don't think we're winning this one anymore. I think we can probably scoop that up and value our time. I think I like how we've done this one. Dazes feel a little bit stronger on the play than they do on the draw, obviously. We'll take out a Force for a Daze. How do I feel about these Nihil Spellbombs? They cantrip, they shut down a little bit of their stuff, but not much. I'll have another Daze. And do we have space for this third Daze? Like, what would we be cutting here? Maybe it is the Spellbomb on the front foot instead of being reactive, trying to draw more cards. Use our creatures to draw the cards. Hopefully we can find out if the mechanic that our entire deck is based around works or not on Modo right now. So we can ponder, looking for some permission to back our frogs. But we have two creatures that demand an answer pretty much immediately. Our opponent's certainly going to have removal in their hand. Really keep a control hand without the ability to answer a creature. Okay, I actually like this. So we can play two creatures next turn if we want. That way we can get around the removal of our opponent. Now it'll suck if they're going to be doing some terminusing. But I'd also like to see if this Ingenious Infiltrator does actually work. Because if Ninjutsu is bugged, then I need to stop playing this league and pick it up tomorrow at least. Get the Outcast. I doubt they care about that one too much. And we get the Tamiyo. If they've got Terminus on top, then that sucks for us. Okay, they didn't. They went through their draw phase. Excellent. Polluted Delta. They're going to play a frog of their own. An Orcish Bowmasters. So goodbye to our Changeling Outcast. We still get to Tamiyo. I don't even think we Ingenious Infiltrator with the Bowmasters in. Let's attack. I would like to see if it will let us, though. Moment of truth. Okay, so now it works. Why did it not work before? That is a mystery to me. I don't think we're doing this. I think we're playing Psychic Frog. Should play this land out first. I don't believe our opponent's deck has Daze, but that was still something we could have potentially avoided. Baleful Strix. A mighty fine creature indeed. Very good into the Psychic Frogs of the world. And boy howdy is there a lot of Psychic Frogs in the world for the next 3 weeks, and then there won't be any more. Oh dear, oh dear. Which of these is more of a burden to us? I think it's the Bowmasters here. We've got to take our lumps here. Oh wow, it's good enough for a force. Do I want to get a clue? I don't think so. I'm just going to pass it over. Just going to stare at each other for a bit. Popping this clue doesn't feel like a great use of our time. A Brazen Borrower. Not a big fan of what this Borrower actually represents right now. I guess we're just passing over again. We could attack into the Strix and just trade out our frog for a Strix. That does not feel good though. We've got a bunch of removal that we can draw into. Ponder from our opponent. We also have our own Bowmasters we can draw, which can ping down their Bowmasters or the Strix. A swamp. Let's go and get ourselves an island here. Let's deploy this for 4 mana. So we have enough now that our opponent might want to Wrath, and that leaves us with a clue token and some more pressure to follow up with. And now we have more guys we can attack more readily into what our opponent's doing. It's not going to feel good, but we can do it. We're going to see a plow here. Probably on the frog. I want to do it on our ninja. Another ponder from our opponent. We need to find our Orcish Bowmasters. We have 3 of them. That would really help here. I think the staring contest continues. Force of Will. Am I willing to send both of these? I really hate that. Alright, I think we're going to. We could crack the clue, but we could crack both clues and flip the Tamiyo. So I think the Strix is going to block the frog. I'm just going to chump it here. I'm not a big lover of this play. Because they've blocked here, they pinged us. So the plan here is to make the frog big enough to kill the Orc army. Have the Tamiyo Planeswalker to solve the pressure they have. And then try and build something up from there. Oh, they're going to Miracle a Terminus, are they? Am I fighting over this? This gets rid of their Bowmasters. It stops us from getting a Tamiyo Planeswalker. But we will have more cards than our opponent. Sure, I'll allow this. And then we can play out our Tamiyo. Just getting basics. Our opponent might have back to basics type stuff. It's free for us to with this many lands anyway. Right, we've got Tamiyo. Kaito is incredibly good against control decks like our opponents. They have to Miracle Terminuses on our turn to really deal with it. Or they could pending it, but we haven't seen that many pendings. So they might be saving them in reserve specifically for things like Kaito. Do I care about a Murktide Regent? I could Force of Will this. I think I shall. I think I'm going to get rid of the frog rather than the borrower in case we need to get rid of the Murktide Regent if this doesn't work. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. Alright, remember the Tamiyo. Why can't we ninjutsu this? What is going on? What am I missing here? Can anyone tell me? Return an unblocked attacker you control. Put this card from the battlefield and hand attacking. What is going on? Why can't we ninjutsu off of a Tamiyo? This seems really bad for us. Alright, see if we can get our Kaito down. So this would have been uncounterable and hit our opponent for 3 this turn. Our opponent hasn't taken any damage, so I think we're just going to get an emblem here. Not the most exciting of things. Is it just on Tamiyo? A Bowmasters. Probably goes to our face. Well, if a ninjutsu doesn't work off of a Tamiyo, awkward. But these creatures are still going to be large enough. I guess we go this on the bottom. And this. And this. No, we should have done it the other way around, shouldn't we? Should have got the Yuriko down. So we can attack our Kaito for a decent chunk here. So he stops being a creature. Baleful Strix. Yeah, that's annoying. Ain't no days in that one. 1 card left in our opponent's hand, though. If we can leverage what we've got, maybe we can get there. So we could stun this, but it will cost us our Kaito. So I don't think we're doing that. I think we are on the getting another emblem here. We could just play this card out. Got some big old beefcakes. We have more cards to work with than our opponent does right now. Snapcaster Mage is a pretty good one. So this is going to get the Brainstorm back. Oh, it's a Plow. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Daze not really pulling its weight at this late stage of the game. Goodbye, Ingenious Infiltrator. So you can attack our Kaito with a bunch of stuff and kill it. But maybe this works out alright for us if the ninjutsu mechanic works. So this at Kaito, this at Kaito, this at Kaito. Okay, so we can't save the Kaito. We block here, take 3, we block here, take 3. Nothing we can do about that, so we just have to let Kaito die if they attack with all 3 of these. But all of our ninjas will be +2/+2 for the rest of the game. Our opponent had a land there. They didn't keep it in hand for the purpose of Brainstorm. They might have Mystic Sanctuary. Let's get Yuriko down. It's the biggest thing on the board. We just need to find a way to get through this Baleful Strix. Also, the Yuriko doesn't draw cards. It puts cards into your hand, so we will dodge the Bowmaster on that one. They had an Archive rather than a Mystic Sanctuary. Although, I guess, you know, putting back a Brainstorm might not be where you want to be here, but it is better than an average draw. If we can somehow get paid out with this Daze, that'd be lovely. I don't quite understand how that'll happen, but it'd be nice. We're going to sit each other for a while. Sit here and stare at each other. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. I'd love to resolve this card. Does our opponent just have a Force of Will over there? Who knows? Let's try this out. So we can minus this to tap this down. Then attack with this and this. That gets us a clue that we're not really using. It puts our Kaito down to 4, which then dies on the next turn. I think we're just going to keep making our ninjas larger. As weird as that sounds. Another Snapcaster Mage. Sure. To get back the Brainstorm. Okay. Esper mana in the pool. Is this going to be a prismatic ending for 3? It is, on our poor little Yuriko. I'm sorry to see you go. A Tamiyo for our opponent. And they can send a lot at the Kaito here. So we can block here and we take 2, 4, 5. So they have exactly lethal if they attack Kaito with everything that isn't the Strix. Sorry, Kaito. Oh, an Orcish Bowmasters though. That is handy. Okay. Are we popping... This is so awkward. I'm definitely playing this out. I think we have to pop their Bowmasters here. And then we crack a clue. We leave black open in case we draw a removal spell. I was hoping we could draw another clue. Sorry, another land. And then we could play the land, attack, and then activate the clue. So we don't really get to flip Tamiyo this turn. That is an irritation. There's not a lot of time left on our clock, though. Right, Tamiyo, you continue to be an annoyance. Okay, another excellent draw there. I will take this. Get out of here, Baleful Strix. Let me be the wizard. I'll attack with just a Tamiyo here. I will crack our clue still. Whilst we know the coast is clear. A Brainstorm, okay. We need to be pretty careful with the amount of time we have, though. I think we can win this game, though. We can definitely grind through what our opponent's doing. Like, these clues are a bit of a poison chalice right now. So find a removal spell. Right, we're going to attack. Get ourselves a clue. Changing Outcast going. Brainstorm. They could remove the Tamiyo. They did put some white mana in their pool. They would like to plough our creature. They are cracking a clue. I will ping down both of their Snapcasters. We have 2 Orc armies because Changing Outcast is an army. So I'm going to pump our unblockable creature. Feels like our opponent is up to no good here. So what do we need here? We don't really need the cut right now. We don't want Daze either. Put the Daze back on top. And a C, I think, actually. Okay, we got 4 minutes. We have an awful lot of damage we can leverage here. We have 10 power of unblockable. If our opponent draws any additional cards, it's lethal on its own. With this Bowmaster we have as well. Does our opponent have a Bowmaster of their own? A Baleful Strix. Sure. This feels like a bait for us to play another Bowmaster. Go ahead, little Tamiyo. The cracking a clue now. A Brainstorm. 3, 6, 9. Alright, sure. I'll take this Brainstorm. Let's ping our opponent here. Again, this might be bait to try and force us to play more things. But I think just getting our opponent down to a very low life total here isn't the worst thing in the world. I'll ping down the Tamiyo before it flips. Have many, many triggers to click on here. We have an 11-11 and another 11-11. Bouncing this clue so our opponent can't draw in our turn might be really handy. But we don't really have that option, I'm afraid. Crack the clue and Miracle of Terminus. But our opponent will die to this, right? No, we'll only deal them 3 here. We're still amassing plenty of threats in our deck. Let's play this Tamiyo out. Clue, in case we find something useful. Our Bowmasters, sure. I should leave instants in there for purposes of our own Tamiyo, but we don't have time for that, really. We just got to click the things. Force of Will. Okay. We missed 1 damage earlier with an Orcish Bowmasters, by the way. 6 there as well. When I needed to play the land so we could bounce something with Borrower. Our opponent's win condition is us timing out now. Probably has been for a while. Changing Outcast, let's get that in there. So we can have Borrower and we can have the Changing Outcast, both of lethal threats. So I think we can just go over the line here, unless our opponent has some good draws. We could have played the land so that we could Petty Theft and Brazen Borrower, but we are under the gun here. Alright, another Terminus. Any order's fine. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. Can it defeat our Borrower? Let's hope not. Sideways. Whew. An absolute slog of a game, but we managed to get there. Now, we also managed to get there without the ability to actually ninjutsu our creatures for at least half of the game. So, unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to put this one down for a minute. For you lovely people at home, it should hopefully be a seamless transition into the next round, but I'm going to have to give up on this recording for today, because this deck does not actually work for some reason. So I'm going to message the Magic Online team, and hopefully they'll fix it for tomorrow. Right, on to round 2. Right, welcome to round 2. I've been told that the ninjutsu bug is a weird one where what you actually have to do is float the mana first and then it lets you ninjutsu. So let's test that. We don't have anything that really works here, so we're going to mulligan. I will keep this one. A couple of lands. Probably chuck back a Brainstorm. Probably begin on a Tamiyo start. A Boggart's Bog. Our opponent might be playing Oops All Spells. This might be a very quick round. So we might not get to test if this is actually fixed or not. Be exciting. I think... Like, I want to get the Tamiyo going, but we probably have to Brainstorm here. Our opponent is almost certainly just going to send it. Cabal Therapy. They are not going to hit. They're going to name Force of Will, and then we're going to have this Brainstorm, and we can Brainstorm into Force of Will. There we go. Exactly as I predicted. A Chrome Mox from our opponent. So they have 2 mana and 2 cards in hand. So they need a 3rd piece of acceleration if they want to go here. Okay. Pact of Negation. That does tell us very much that we're looking at an Oops matchup. An island. Okay, another island. Deploy a Tamiyo. I will Brainstorm now, just so we can start ticking up our Tamiyo and have a win condition. So what do we do? We need to do some amount of shuffling here. So I guess we put these two on top. This flips. Or plus. Maybe our opponent doesn't have it just yet. If we draw half our library, we will be able to beat our opponent's hand. But we need this Tamiyo to pop off before they go for the combo. And they're pressured into going for it because of our Tamiyo. So it's a bit of an awkward one. Can Vista and then Ponder. So we can shuffle off the one card on top that we don't want. A blue mana. 3 mana. Undercity Informer with no additional mana? Or they got a Spirit Guide. Okay. So we've put them under some pressure here. Thankfully we have an answer for this. So place one out. I will crack this for black source. I'll ponder. My cup runneth over of which ones to choose here. Fatal Push works. So I guess we put Infiltrator down, then the Outcast, then the push. I will plus this Tamiyo rather than get the ponder back. Our opponent couldn't go for it last turn, so I don't think they're going to be able to go for it this turn. And we're very close to just popping this Tamiyo, and that should be game. Just need to hold on for one more turn. This one out. Play out just a couple of Outcasts. No, actually, we'll leave up the Murderous Cut in case our opponent sequences their spells badly. So they play the guy, don't have the mana to pop it, and then we can kill their guy. Alright, we managed to get game 1 versus Oops. Not a thing that's easily accomplished. Nihil Spellbomb, get in here. Null Rods, this has text. The Faerie Macabres obviously have some text here. The Consign to Memories can stop a trigger. These things all work pretty well for us. The Harbinger can stop them getting initial black mana alongside the Null Rod. The Engineering Explosives may be useful at times. What do we not need? These things, probably, like expensive things, are not required really. I don't think we want a borrower, although we can borrow away their like Moxes, and that's pretty good. So we don't really need a Bowmaster here. We want all of our counter magic, so that stays in. One drops, I'm a big fan of. We probably don't have that much time to do pondering things. We probably don't want that much removal either. It's just a case of what is better, the cut or the push. I think they're both better than Edict, so we get rid of the Edict. We'll get rid of a push and leave 1 and 1. The worst of both worlds. We probably don't need all of these things. I guess we can probably trim a ponder. It is a blue card. But I think having like this plan is pretty good, but then Psychic Frog is a very similar plan. Tamiyo, is Tamiyo actually where I want to be here? Maybe it isn't. Maybe the Tamiyos will go here. They don't pressure our opponent unless we have a Brainstorm, and that's not really something we can rely upon. So we're just going to try and stop our opponent from winning and then win with what's left over. Okay. Consign to Memory. This can stop our opponent from winning the game. I think this is worth keeping. We have to hold it open. If our opponent... So our opponent has to slow down for the most part because they have to respect what we have. Now they could just send it on turn 1 and we lose. But I don't think mulliganing to our 4 Force of Will, we mulligan to something that is pretty reasonable from turn 1 onwards. Because they have to have enough mana to be able to go, and they probably want to have some sort of interaction if we just snap to 7 here. Alright, there you go. They play their land tapped, like I suspected might happen. I will play out this island. We'll hold up the Consign. Because they're on low resource, they might not have the mana to go off properly. So we can Consign to Memory the Thassa's Oracle trigger and use their empty library as our plan. Okay, so our opponent might be on a Charbelcher pivot here, which is something that also loses to Consign to Memory, thankfully. Let's play out this Changeling Outcast. So next turn we can start drawing additional cards and hurting our opponent's life total if we want to. A Fell Mire. Paying some life. Is this the Belcher? It is. Say no to Belcher. If they have a pact, we lose. They did not have a pact. Okay, that's good news for us. I'll attack with our Changing Outcast, and we can test the Ninjutsu thing. Okay, so if we tap these... Okay, so now they're both online. Okay, that's a weird change. Force of Will. That hits our opponent for 5, and they know they have the Force of Will to play against. I will go and get ourselves black mana here, and I will deploy the Changing Outcast. So next turn, we can hit with the Infiltrator and the Yuriko. So we need our opponent to brick for 1 turn, and I think we should be sorted. Like, they don't even have to brick here, they just have to not be able to get through a Force of Will. It's good enough last time. Is it good enough this time? Alright, they're just scooping it up, and we win the match. So we've worked out the problem with the Ninjutsu. You just have to float the mana, and then it turns on the ability. Bit weird, But now we can actually complete this league and deliver that wonderful ninja action. The fact that we won the first round without being able to ninjutsu our creatures is still pretty appealing to me. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, so on the play for round 3, we don't have any real way of starting off with any pressure here. We don't have any cantrips to find any pressure either. We could keep this and be a slow sort of reactive hand and hope that we'll find some creatures. I think that is reasonable. The fact that our fetch land doesn't get us the Surveil land is a little bit awkward here. This is a tricky one. I think we'll keep it. It's just a selection of good lands and spells. It's going to be a case of playing it relatively slowly here. We are a deck that has a nice mid-range gear, so we can certainly leverage that. Okay, I'll just open up with an island. That gives us the ability to get basic swamp off our Prismatic Vista, and we still have the island up for potential dazes. Okay, marsh flats. Underground Sea. What flavour of Underground Sea are we looking at? Do I want our opponent to Thoughtseize us right now? I think that's fine. I don't think it's worth betting a Daze on. We might have bigger fish to fry with this Daze. Right, it took our only threat. Okay, so our opponent's settling in for a longer game here, I suspect. Oh wow, talking of good threats, let's just play the best threat. I know we can fight this with a Daze as well. Okay, not a bad top deck. We do have a reasonably high density of creatures that play. A Brainstorm from our opponent. Sure, this means that our Daze will be live for whatever spell they follow up with. So the chances of us getting a single hit in with Psychic Frog is quite likely. And the more hits you get in with Psychic Frog, the more hits you're likely to get in with Psychic Frog because you just have more resources. A big snowbally amphibian. Oh wow, our opponent just scoop into the turn 2 Psychic Frog. Okay. What does that tell me about my opponent's deck? Probably that I want some Bowmasters. We saw a Brainstorm. I don't know if our opponent is on a Stormy style build. They could be Tempo, they could be Reanimator. I don't know what our opponent is on. I think we would like the Bowmasters. I think I'll cut one Force of Will and one Daze here for the Bowmasters and then kind of leave it similar. Maybe I'll take out another Daze for a Spellbomb here. Maybe I'll hedge and take both Spellbombs actually. They're just generically useful into... Even the Tempo decks have things like Netherglyph. This hand is very slow, but Brainstorm is a very powerful card that can fix it. So I'm going to keep this one. We have a Force of Will if our opponent is on the more busted side of blue-black. Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. I think we can answer that with some removal down the stretch. I'm going to fetch around a potential Stifle here. It's free, and we're always getting a basic with this anyway. We've got plenty of fetch lands for Revolt. Yep, our opponent's just going to run away with this Tamiyo card advantage if we don't string something together. We do have some powerful tools in our hand. Under from our opponent, we'll allow that one. This means we don't have to fear Bowmasters on the backswing. Our opponent is probably a Tempo build, but they could be a Doomsday build. Because so far everything we've seen is consistent with a Doomsday deck. A Thoughtseize. Sure. They're going to take our Brainstorm, I think, here. That would be my pick. Which means we just draw a Psychic Frog. We've got a lot of good cards in hand. We just need to be able to leverage them. Yep, our opponent correctly took the Brainstorm. We could have Brainstormed in response. May have been better to Brainstorm response there. Don't want to get caught with a Daze, though. If they Daze our Brainstorm and then Thoughtseize us, then we just got nothing going on. So maybe that's wrong and we're supposed to Brainstorm there. A Psychic Frog. We're going to Force of Will this one. So our opponent going to force back. We're going to get a Surveil land. We have one Surveil land in our deck. Have they got a follow-up threat? No, Netherglyph maybe? No. Blue. Nihil Spellbomb. That doesn't really impact our deck. Let's crack this. Get ourselves our one of Undercity Sewers. Have a little look at the top of our library. Changeling Outcast. Sure. I think this is fine. It allows us to do some ninjutsuing soon. Our opponent has a lot of cards in the bank over there. Alright, I'll play out this Outcast. Next turn we can put in the Kaito or we can put in the Infiltrator depending on what we think is the best option. We should have Brainstorm response to that Thoughtseize. This is a whole Ancestral Recall worth of cards have come out of this Tamiyo. They need to be leveraged by paying 2 mana for each clue, but that's pretty good. Right, so they're just going to cantrip with this Spellbomb. Make sure we can't do any sort of Murktide Regent shenanigans, which has been in previous builds of Ninjas, but isn't in the current builds of like Frog and stuff. Alright, so we're getting an Orcish Bowmasters here. Yep, this looks pretty decisive for our opponent. We are quite far behind here. A Yuriko. I can play a Yuriko around a Daze. That's acceptable for where we're at right now. This can hold the fort against Orc army tokens. So our opponent can transform the Tamiyo if they want to, which can reduce our Yuriko to having no power on attacks. Feeling great about this one. a Nethergoyf. Our opponent has a lot of power. A lot of cards. I'm pretty close to wanting to scoop this one up. And a Baragoyf. I don't even know what we can draw here that's going to make a difference. No, it's just going to be too hard to come back from this. We'll just go again. So our opponent's deck, we would like these Dazes back in on the play. I don't think we need the Nihil Spellbombs anymore. I do like the Bowmasters. And trim one of these forces. Do you want something like an Explosives as a way of killing Tamiyos? We already have other removal for that. No, this is fine. We'll go back in like this. Changing Outcast. Okay, so maybe we can actually do the ninja thing. And if they destroy our Changing Outcast, that's a removal spell that's been spent on a 1-mana 1/1, as opposed to something like an Orcish Bowmasters. We can play on basics as well, so we just play the Swamp for this Outcast. We have got this Polluted Delta for an island. We've got our colours and we're ready to rock and roll. We can slam in with a Yuriko next turn if we want. If our opponent has a fetch land, okay. So they can't... we can't Daze this because of the allow me fetch, but I think it's still right to fetch that. I was going to say we can't get our creature killed by a fatal push once we do the ninjutsuing. But now we don't have anything to ninjutsu. We just have a 1-mana 1/1. Right, let's attack. Let's crack this. Get an island. So I could Orcish Bowmasters to force through an extra damage because we can put the Bowmaster trigger for the army onto the Changing Outcast. But we could use that to maybe protect it from an opposing Orcish Bowmasters. That could be a really important line here. I think our opponent would play an Orcish Bowmasters to clear our Outcast. Then we can kill their Bowmaster response and grow our Changing Outcast out of it, all whilst having Daze up. A Nihil Spellbomb. Okay, so now we can do our Brainstorm without worrying about Orcish Bowmasters from the other side. I will Brainstorm at end step here, because we want the velocity of being able to cast a 2-drop here. Or Ninjutsu a 2-drop. Okay, we've got some stuff here, haven't we? So we'll put back one Infiltrator that we can hopefully pop off with the Yuriko. And then what is the other card going to be? We're going to draw it in a second anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's Ninjutsu this in. Stifle could get us here, but you don't see many Stifles in these decks. So they have to crack their Spellbomb for no value if they want to fatal push this. So we're going to deal them 4 off of this card we're about to draw. Okay, we've taken a big bite out of crime there. Okay, so they're just trying to get the cantrip value from the Spellbomb. Surprised the Spellbombs are even still in at this point. We haven't shown them anything that really cares about the graveyard. So it's a 2-mana cantrip. I think they can do better than that. Wasteland that we're playing around. Psychic Frog around our Daze. Sure. I guess we have a Murderous Cut is the thing. So we've got Bowmasters coming in. I don't really want to send in the Yuriko here. We could put in the Outcast, or we could hold up the Bowmasters. I quite like the Bowmasters here, if they're going to attack with the Frog. A Brainstorm. Well, this is incredibly tempting, isn't it? Let's try this. This might be bait, but I think the opportunity is too strong not to take. They are dazing us. We cannot pay for this. Okay. I think our opponent is pulling ahead. Their cards are individually better than ours, but we have some strong synergies. And we're not leveraging those synergies just yet. Like, we've still got a lot of cards in hand. There's a lot of game to play still. It was a little bit awkward for us. They're going to attack with the Frog. They are. We can't block because they can just pump a load of cards into the Frog and take out a Yuriko. But we have some options next turn. If they want to kill our Yuriko, they have to do it after we've gone to attack. Before we've gone to blocks on our attack step, because then we can, if they try and remove it, we can flip it in for another one they know we have. A Tamiyo, sure. They're just holding this wasteland around to pay for Dazes. Obviously, we don't have any targets, but this is actually a relevant game object. A Nihil Spellbomb. I think that is a mistake to play that one out. That might mean they have no 1-mana interaction. What is our strategy here? We're kind of just under the gun with our own mana here. Attacking doesn't feel good. I guess we play out the Outcast. That's probably where I'm at. We can't attack into the Tamiyo. Okay, so now they are rewarded for playing out that Spellbomb, so they get to cycle it. Our Bowmasters. Yeah, there's no point trying to Daze this. Just a single mana would have been a useful tool to have this game, a single more mana. So we're going to lose our Outcast. They're coming in for some bits. They know we have a Daze, and we just can't leverage this Daze at all. Opponent's just drawing loads of extra cards and running away with this game. We managed to draw 1 extra card with the Yuriko. But they've had 2 off the frog at least now. Okay, so we finally found another mana source. Let's attack with our Yuriko. I guess we're supposed to play around a Daze here. So we play the Bowmasters out first. Try and take out our opponent's Bowmasters. Then we can drop the Outcast. Unsurprisingly, our opponent has a Force of Will at this stage because they've been drawing lots of extra cards. So we can attack and just get some like really good Yuriko chains and win the damage rates that way. They're cracking a clue here. So like if we have something along the lines of 2 Force of Wills off of our triggers. They're dazing our thing. Sure, I'll daze back. Another Daze? We do have another Daze. If our opponent is correctly identified, the way they lose this game is if we connect with our unblockable creature and flip over some 5s. Okay, so now what is our solution? I guess we at least have Murderous Cut as a castable spell now. Alright, they're attacking with everything. This probably means they have a follow-up threat or a piece of removal for our Yuriko if they attack with everything. If they don't attack with the Bowmasters, then they might be chump blocking with it. Okay, our opponent gets yet another card. So they've seen an additional 5 cards compared to us this game. Which is a lot, and we've only seen 15 or 16 cards. Another frog. Okay. That's obviously terrible news for us. Alright, let's attack and see if they want to put some cards on this frog, and then we can maybe get a positive exchange here. We kind of need to make these sorts of attempts. Alright. They didn't go for it in the end. Right, so now we wait on our Murderous Cut in terms of when our opponent puts cards into a frog. If they don't put cards into a frog, then we can just kill it anyway, but we at least give them the chance to act first. We also get to see what they attack with, and maybe we can destroy one of their blockers. Right, they're coming in with everything here. So they've got access to 6 cards right now. So 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. So I think we take this, we try and Murderous Cut whatever they put back to block, and hope that our Yuriko triggers are enough. I think that is our solution here. Oh, the Tamiyo flipping is a real pain for us though, isn't it? Okay, I guess we try this now. See if we can cut this. Because they can't draw extra cards, because it's specifically your 3rd card that flips a Tamiyo. So if you wait till that triggers on, there's no way they can re-trigger it with another Brainstorm or anything. Do they have a blocker here? A Bowmasters. That's going to ping our Changing Outcast, of course. It's going to give them a chump blocker for our Yuriko. Yeah, the turns where we didn't have the 3rd mana have really cost us here, because ordinarily, if we weren't playing against Psychic Frogs, then eventually when we draw the land we get to leverage these cards and we'll be fine. But the problem is our opponent just has all the cards in the world. I think we have to ponder here because we're so far behind. I don't think any of these do anything. We need removal spells or nothing here. Yeah, I'm happy to concede this one. We are just too far behind. Yeah, that was pretty brutal. Our opponent is a much leaner, meaner tempo deck than we are, and it showed there. Let's go to round 4. Alright, our opener for this round is fine. We have some Brainstorms to clean it up a bit. We've got some lands to work with. Bowmasters is a reasonable threat. It's a nice thing to bounce. I think I will keep this. A Mox Diamond. So our opponent is likely on a lands or lands adjacent strategy, so we could be looking at... Okay, the Otawara is a little bit unusual, so we could be looking at like a blue-green sort of variant with things like Uro in. Life from Loam getting back Otawara. Okay, so this is not going to be a matchup where Bowmaster shines. But it is going to be a matchup where having lots and lots of basic lands in our deck shines. I will just play out this island for now. If we have to Brainstorm and try and counter something spooky, we can do that. But generally speaking, I want to try and Brainstorm with a fetch land next turn. Because we have 2 Brainstorms, I think I'm okay to fire 1 off in our opponent's turn. This is also going to be a matchup where us not having Wastelands comes back to bite us a little bit. Alright, let's get this Brainstorm down. If our opponent flashes in an Orcish Bowmasters, I'm not going to feel great about it. Interesting timing. They're playing around a Stifle there. So we're just going to put back a couple of lands here. Not really interested in Bowmasters that much here. Just crack this one to shuffle off that card off the top. We'll go and get ourselves a Swamp, and we'll try and ponder looking for a Changeling Outcast, I think. I do like the Tamiyo, but it's a little bit awkward here in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. But I think it is probably better. We can certainly pump it up quite easily, but is that a thing we want to do? I think we just want to use it. So fetching this Swamp Hat has definitely hampered us in a big way. Yeah, we could have played the Polluted Delta and got a non-basic there. Our opponent's definitely going to have some amount of hate for our lands, though. They didn't make a token, and they didn't float mana. I have to assume that was a mistake, not floating mana. Maybe they don't need the mana, and they're going to play a 3-drop this turn. They're in a very commanding position. Their loam strategy should grind through everything we're doing. Yep. We don't really have a good answer to Urza Saga in our deck. We could go around it, or through it, but we can't defeat it. Okay, so we'll play out this Tamiyo. Got this Vista. So I could flip the Tamiyo, but that's not actually the most helpful thing. It's probably better to have this Tamiyo as a creature that can enable our Ingenious Infiltrator. This is going to be an Engineered Explosives and Graveyard Hate matchup, for sure. That's the only way we're going to be able to beat recurring Urza Sagas with our deck. I guess we can tap this like this, can't we, and save ourselves a point of damage. So we've got a land on top of our library now, actually, so let's crack this. Let's kick another island, we can get swamp off of this if we need to. A Sheoldred's Edict. I think the plan has to be attack with Tamiyo here. Get a clue that we're unlikely to be able to leverage. Get ourselves a Ninja connecting here. Play a Polluted Delta. This can give us access to these Brainstorms, or it can give us access to the Cut if we want it. How are we going to deal with a potential Marit Lage? That's another question. I wonder if they're going to just turn the Thespian stage into a Saga. They are. Okay. That means they're not making as many constructs immediately. So we might have the ability to tempo through. They've chosen lines that have given them 2 less constructs than they could have had by now, which is certainly helping us. Are they making a construct here? They are. I'm not sure they have to make the Thespian stage into the Saga when you've just got the loam running. But okay, so they've got a Pithing Needle here. Are they going to name our Polluted Delta? It doesn't matter that much because they have a Yavimaya anyway. They might name the backside of Tamiyo. That's probably the correct name. There it is. Seasoned Scholar. There's a Wasteland. We are very much playing around Wasteland at all points at all times here. So what am I doing about this 5-5? I think... Ooh, it's not attacking. That is very interesting. Okay, then we're going to go to our turn. We're going to see if we can brainstorm into a different ninja and put it in over to Tamiyo. I'd like to find a Yuriko and a Changeling Outcast. That way we can attack, get our Yuriko in, and then just have a 1-1 to keep bashing away for the triggers. Alternatively, we could just find nothing. We'll put this one back, and I think the Daze is not really going to work for us, is it? Oh, this does flip our Tamiyo as well, doesn't it? Yeah, that is awkward because it's a non-mandatory. It's a mandatory trigger. Maybe we're supposed to ponder there. Let's get a swamp here. We're pondering. We have a another land drop if we need it. Right, so we have a Tamiyo, a Daze, and a Yuriko. We don't want some of these. We do want the Tamiyo and the Yuriko. Let's get another Tamiyo. So we could kill one of their guys and not attack for any damage. That doesn't sound good. We don't get to do anything with the Tamiyo because of the Pithing Needle. But we're trying to set up for a Yuriko game here. Yep. So their Thespian stage is now at the stage where it gets... At the stage, very good. At the stage where it's going to be able to pump out constructs. So I wonder if they're going to turn it into something else here, or they're going to wait until they're... Okay, so they're turning it into a basic so we can't wasteland it. But that's not a thing we were going to do anyway. This does mean we have to beat a construct token appearing every single turn from now on. They could already do that with the Life from the Loam pretty much, so it's an interesting way that they've set up doing it. The Maze of Ith is also irritating here. I will just draw a card here. Is that true? No, I think we're going to... If we make them sacrifice a creature token here, what we get to do here is blow up both their tokens, and then we get some amount of creatures connecting. So let's cut this creature. It doesn't feel great to spend all these resources on just Urza Saga tokens. We now get to connect. A Maze of Ithing are Ingenious Infiltrator. So what would I like to get? I think we just get the Tamiyo back. Then we can brainstorm without flipping it. So this will trigger twice. The top card is a Daze. Do you think we can do better than a Daze? I think so. Can we get something like a 5-ball? A Kaito. That is pretty tasty, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to Brainstorm. Like, we could have Brainstormed something bigger, but we're not trying to get those final points of damage in. Would love to be able to play this Changing Outcast right now, but we can't. So what am I looking at? I guess we put back a Kaito, so we can trigger that next turn with a Yuriko. And then probably a Brainstorm is fine. Play another creature. So now our opponent gets one creature. We are attacking with a bunch. We've got the Kaito on top, which can grow our squad. What are we trying to dodge now? A Marit Lage is probably going to be too much for us. Although maybe the Kaito can lock a Marit Lage down for long enough. Then what else could we work with here? Another Maze of Ith would be a disaster. A Tabernacle would be pretty troublesome too. Oh wow, they're just scooping it up. Incredible that we won that one. I don't think this game was over, but I did point out earlier where our opponent had missed 2 opportunities to make Saga constructs. And the fact they didn't let us get that hit in, which then sort of swapped the game around a little bit. They set up for a longer game, and I think they should have tried to bury us. Alright, sideboarding. I would like to disrupt our opponent's graveyard with Nihil Spellbombs. I would like some Engine Explosive action. The Orcish Bowmasters here is pretty bad. Consign to Memory is okay, but not impressive. The Harbinger of the Seas is excellent. I think we're probably boarding in 5 cards. I don't believe the Murderous Cut is that useful. Obviously, it was handy this time, but that doesn't mean anything sometimes, does it? Okay, let's board out these 3 Dazes. I think the Force of Wills can be fine here. Like, we can hit like a clutch crop rotation. Or the thing that's going to kill our Harbinger of the Seas. So I think we're just going to make those changes. We could bring in the Null Rods to shut down their Mana Rocks, but I think it's better just to have something like a Engineering Explosives for that option. There is an argument to bring in the Faerie Macabre just to deal with Loam. But we're hoping to deal with Loam via the Nihil Spellbombs and the Harbinger. I think that's probably enough. Okay, we have pretty useful cards here. We get to go Outcast into Infiltrator / Frog into Harbinger if we want it. A basic land from our opponent and an expiration. So our opponent has a pretty solid start too. We might be facing down a giant monster in the very, very near future. Okay, let's go and get a swamp. Let's play a 1-mana 1/1. If our opponent just untaps and makes a Marit Lage, we're on a 1 outer. No, we're on a 3 outer because we have the Sheoldred's Edict as well. We can block with Frog to buy ourselves another turn. Obviously feels terrible, but it's a thing we're allowed to attempt. A Windswept Teeth and without depth. Okay, so our opponent is just on the turn 2 2020 line. Psychic Frog. Okay, that's what we have to play. Let's go and get ourselves an island here. Deploy a Frog. We have to discard a card in order to jump the Frog as well. So we'll probably discard this Fatal Push. That gives us running Frogs if we need them. If our opponent's got some sort of Sejiri step, very unlikely in a full-on lands build though. Because the way that they get through removal for Marit Lage is just to repeatedly make a Marit Lage using Life from the Loam expiration. Unlike Turbidepths, which has to protect its thing because it mainly gets 1 chance to do it. This will take out 2 of our opponent's lands. So if we can stall for a turn or 2 and then find the answer, we might be in an okay spot. If they play Life from the Loam here, then I guess we're just dead. And we can just go to game 3 there. I'll discard. So I'll push. I will jump the Frog. What is this? Oh, Pyroblast. Yep, that's the game. Okay, let's go to game number 3. Do I still want these Fatal Pushes? I don't think so. Do we want Hydroblast to counteract their Pyroblast? Probably not. Maybe we want just these just so we don't get loamed out. And rely on the explosives to deal with the constructs. This hand is very slow for what we want. We do have some utility with the Brainstorm though, and we can try and dig something up. I think I'll accept that. We've got 7 1-drops we can find. We've got Psychic Frog we can find. It does mean we're going to be brainstorming on turn 1 or in the first turn cycle, so that if we draw a Psychic Frog we can deploy it on turn 2 and start that aggression. Good old-fashioned island. Although this is a new island rather than an old-fashioned one. Wooded Foothill with some art that I've never seen before. Let's brainstorm here, see if we can find... Oh, they're going to Pyroblast this. That would be pretty savage. I like it. No. Okay, so we found the Frog. How many other lands do we want? I want to keep this. I don't think we need the Ingenious Infiltrator right now. Just keep the variety of tools. We have 2 answers to Marriage in our hand, which is the scariest quick way our opponent has of winning. And then we've got Force of Will to stop some sort of crop rotation shenanigans, if that's what we're worried about. We play on basic lands, which helps too. But our opponent has shown us Pyroblast, so our Psychic Frog is not necessarily going to go the distance. We might just have a clean answer for it. But they got Force of Will and Sheoldred's Edict up. A Mox Diamond. I don't think I can fight over this one. I think we have to fight over a crop rotation or like a clutch removal spell. Caracas. Okay, that doesn't impact much apart from the Yuriko. A Sphere of Resistance. Honestly, that's fine here. If our opponent wants to spend 3 mana for their loans, I can live with that. Let's attack. It costs 3 and we want 1 for a force. Okay, I think we're just going to take our 1 card and not pump the damage anymore. Alright, we certainly have Marriage covered. Hopefully that's what our opponent is planning on doing. If they loam, I'd probably let them have the depths because we can answer that, and then we can just answer the loam with the Faerie Macabre rather than hitting the lands and letting them dredge again and again. Like I said, 3 mana loam. That's a lot. Just get rid of that. I think I'm willing to go and get a Surveil land here. Does expose us to Wasteland in a way that I don't necessarily like, but okay. How do I feel about the Psychic Frog? I like it. Let's attack with the Frog. So we can get double frogs and hold up Force of Will. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. One of them is Dark Depths. Do I want to fetch this? I don't think I want to fetch it just yet. I'm not sure which land we actually want. Tropical Island. How much Otawara type stuff are we expecting here? Exploration. Again, I don't think we would care about that one too much. Like I said, we've got the Dark Depths covered. So don't have to worry about that one. I'm going to attack here. Kind of Infiltrator. Just get a little bit more damage going. I don't think we need explosives, but I'd rather hold on to it in case some like Urza Saga nonsense happens. Right, we're drawing 2 extra cards here. Yuriko is fine. So I could Brainstorm, but it will cost us 2 mana. I think we're just going to pass here. It's a 2 mana crop rotation. Is this a weird bait? What do they get here? Put it on 1 card. Let me counter this. Pitching Brainstorm. We still got Sheoldred's Edict up. I think they probably were just going for the Thespian stage, but if they're going for a Tabernacle, I really don't want to have to deal with that. Because that taps us down, it makes us far less likely to be able to actually cast any meaningful spells. Nihil Spellbomb. And we're attacking. This guy, this Yuriko, it's not doing anything for us. Kozilek's Return. That's 2 damage to each creature, isn't it? So I will discard this Null Spellbomb, I guess. This is 5 damage, so our opponent's on 8. We can easily finish them next turn. We don't need to play this Frog, we can just hold this Force of Will and this Sheoldred's Edict. Just keep it clean. Feeling good about this one. Like, we've connected with Psychic Frog so many times. We're 7 cards ahead of our opponent, which is like, we've seen 50% more cards than them this game. It's pretty unreasonable. I've got 2 cards in hand. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do in this matchup. I think it's just making Urza Saga. Okay, so we got the match, and that's 4 rounds done. We are currently 3-1, so not bad. We could put a 4-1 record on the board if we win the last one. Let's see if we can do exactly that. On the play for the final round, no lands, let's mulligan. Changing Outcast, the powerhouse is here. I think we're going to put back a land and keep this. We can Force of Will, Sink into Stupor can be a land if we need it to be as well. Try to remember what video came out today. I think it was my tricks video came out today. So clearly a human being of great taste. Let's crack this. Get a Swamp. Deploy your friend of mine, the Changeling Outcast. A Lotus Petal from our opponent. What flavour of Lotus Petal Ancient Tomb deck is this? Grim Monolith. I could try and hit the payoffs, or I could try and hit the mana. I've said this before. When your opponent has a... When you play Mystic Forge, when you have Grim Monolith, the deck feels so good. So I'm going to fight this Grim Monolith and see if that's the right choice. It might not be, depending on our opponent's hand. But the amount of times where I've been playing the Mystic Forge deck and I haven't had a Grim Monolith, I felt really bad. Let's try and put our opponent in the dirt that way. We also have Ooh, okay, that's pretty good as well. I was going to say, we also have the Bowmaster, which can punish a One Ring. I guess we don't need to fetch basics here, given our opponent's deck. So, floating the mana, which allows us to actually activate the Ninjutsu ability. Weird bug, but there it is. A Fatal Push. Not really what I wanted, but it'll do. Can hit a Glaring Fleshraker, potentially. We might have to Bowmasters ping itself to get the Fatal Push to kill a Fleshraker if we're in that sort of dire situation. They had a second monolith, so it was the wrong choice. Good to know. It's the One Ring. It is. So we have the Bowmasters to punish this. There's no point attacking this turn. I'd like to draw a land, ideally. Did not draw a land. Then we're just going to play out this Bowmasters in response to them activating the One Ring. Make sure we get our Pound of Flesh. They might play something like a Glaring Fleshraker first and then activate the One Ring. Unlikely, but it's possible. If they do, we at least get to ping off their Fleshraker. No point attacking, so our opponent has One Ring protection. Here comes your friend of mine, Orcish Bowmasters. What a card. This is going to do some serious damage to our opponent here. We're going to put them to 10, and we're going to have a lot of power on board. Look at that. A majestic board presence already. So if we flip a Force of Will to our Yuriko, we can kill our opponent next turn. And the One Ring is also burn them down, so is the Ancient Tomb. Vexing Bauble, sure. We've already used our free spells. 4 mana, another copy of the One Ring. Okay, so they've got a shield up again. But this doesn't draw them additional cards. Well, they can find it. Okay, they're keeping the one with more counters on, so they want to draw more cards. That is the line our opponent's going for, is it? Let's brainstorm, see if we can find anything of merit here. The answer to that is no. We are going to keep the Daze in hand, because there might be a situation where our opponent cracks their bauble and gives us an opportunity. So this is a really tough choice. So we could Fatal Push and just hold this. I think we just hold the Fatal Push, because if our opponent has a Glaring Fleshraker, we can do this. And Revolt is a permanent leaving the battlefield. So we can Daze, even though they'll be countered, that will give us Revolt for the Fatal Push to kill the Glaring Fleshraker. But they're on 6 now. If they activate the One Ring, they'll go to 3. The activation tune, they go to 1. So we're doing some work here. If we don't get another protection bubble, we can just Fatal Push away a token, crash with everything, and that should be lethal, especially with the One Ring ticking down over there. We need our opponent to not have a bananas turn. If they play another copy of the One Ring, it frees up some mana on their Ancient Tomb as well. Alright. Oh, no. They'll think about using their Ancient Tomb. They are using it. This looks like a Kozilek's command to me. On our Bowmasters. So their One Ring is going to be back in action. But they have to win with what they have. Which is quite a lot, to be fair. It's 5 mana and 3 additional cards. So they got 5 cards and 5 mana. They can also just play another copy of the One Ring. Right, a Grim Monolith. That's not a business spell, but that is an additional piece of mana for them this turn. Voltaic Key. That is more mana or more cards, depending on what our opponent wants. I kind of hope it's more cards, because if they just need more mana, that means their hand is already busted. Alright, it's just more mana, okay. Understood, opponent. So another reason why counterspelling the Grim Monolith early is a good play is that Vexing Bauble exists in our opponent's list, and we may not get another opportunity to use our Force of Will. So that's another thing to be aware of. Khan the Great Creator. Don't feel great about this. So what can they find for 2 mana here? We can remove their only blocker. If they switch phases at any point and we go into like combat, then I will probably kill this spawn. They're revealing an artifact. I wonder which one. It could be another key, if they have one. Just get some more mana or cards. The One Ring is threatening to kill them though. So probably need something here. A Walking Ballista. X equals 1 on the Walking Ballista. That's just a chump blocker, is it? I like our chances with the old Fatal Push in hand. I did say I'd kill this when they move phases, but they're giving us a different creature to kill here. Our opponent's going to ping us for 1, but then we get to crash through with Orc Army and Yuriko, and either is lethal. Our opponent agrees. We managed to pick up the game there. Nice. Alright, Null Rod, let's please have you. Consign to memory, I very much like you. Orcish Bowmasters, come and join the party. Engineered Explosives, also good for blowing up a bunch of keys and all that jazz. Harbinger of the Seas, not terrible, not amazing. So it's an option. Then we'll get rid of this Murderous Cut. I like having the Sheoldred's Edicts to deal with Glaring Fleshraker or Khan. I'm not big into the fatal pushes because we have to have the ability to deal with them as well. I don't like the Dazes because our opponent's got a lot of fast mana over there. So yeah, because we have to have the fetch land to get Revolt for our fatal push. It's still a potential option, but it's just something to consider. What do we also want here? I think we want to keep our Brainstorms and Ponders because if we can find a Null Rod, that's potentially like to have. If we take out these Harbinger of the Seas, we only need one more cut. Is Kaito a little bit slow here? Maybe Kaito is a touch slow, which is a shame. I really like Kaito. But let's try this. We're exposing ourselves a little bit more to the Glaring Fleshraker. Daze is not a thing that should really stop our opponent. It might be a thing where our opponent doesn't respect it and we get to jam. They are trying to play a bunch of 4-drops. Right. No blue mana, but we have 2 cards that punish their best card. I don't know if I can keep this though. It's already a multi-5. Let's just mulligan and look for something better. Okay. I think this is reasonable. Do I play 1 turn behind and just hold up the Consign to memory in case our opponent has a bonkers turn? I think so. Undercity Sewers can go back. If we're on the play, I think it's more of a decision, but on the draw, I think we just have to hold up the Consign as long as we have it. Exit 2. Is this a Grim Monolith start? No play. So they're respecting something. Well, maybe they're just going for a turn 2 big play. Another one of those is exactly what I want to see. Let's go an island. Let's just hold up this Consign to memory now. An Urza's Saga. I can counter that trigger, but I don't think that's what I want to do. A Grim Monolith. Okay, I think we're going to go for the trying to deal with the payoff instead this time. Maybe that will prove an issue for us. I think I want to play out a Polluted Delta, get an Underground Sea here. I just don't want to get caught by any weird timings around the Kozilek's Commander's potential. So I think we're going to consign the Saga trigger so they don't get to make constructs. I don't think we can beat the constructs that easily with our hand. Lotus Petal is fine. Looking to counter spell like a Khan or a One Ring or something. That's exactly the sort of thing I wanted to counter. They could cast another one. Mystic Forge. Okay, the One Ring is better than Mystic Forge, although we can interact with the One Ring a lot easier with our Bowmasters. I think we are... This is a turn we make some pressure. So we can use the Ponder next turn to try and find a creature with Ninjutsu. Alright, so they get to get a key here which unlocks a bunch of mana with their Grim Monolith. They don't get to make a token here because of our previous Consign to memory. Oh dear, oh dear. How good or bad is this Mystic Forge going to be for us? With Vexing Borrower, we've gone past the stage where we would have had some Force of Wills, I think. A Manifold Key. Sure, so they had a key. And they were respecting counter magic more than just getting more keys. Which is interesting given the Mystic Forge. Right, they're tapping the Forge rather than the Monolith. Right, they are spending a bunch of life to exile a bunch of cards. So we've got an Ancient Tomb and a Planar Nexus here. They'd like to dismember our guy. Paying... discarding cards doesn't work there because of the amount of cards we have in hand. What are we going to find? An Orcish Bowmasters. I don't think that's as good as a Psychic Frog. I think if we ponder into an Ninjutsu creature, that's good enough. Yes, I will take both of these. So we'll put this one on the bottom. We're basically just trying to race our opponent now. So we've got the Kaito on top. So that's a nice 4-ball to our opponent's face. And we have lethal next turn. We draw that Polluted Delta. We don't know what's on top. So we might not be lethal. But we can play the Polluted Delta, Kaito, plus the Kaito. That gets in for... Actually, no, we can just attack with the Kaito for the 3, can't we? Alright, okay, we're not doing that now. But we do have an Orcish Bowmasters, which might just be lethal on its own. Our opponent's going to be going to 2 life in their upkeep. Okay. Now they're going to be going to 1 life in their upkeep. I like our spot. Our opponent only has 1 mana there. We don't get to Bowmaster them until their turn anyway. There's no point attacking here. I'll play out Changing Outcast. And then we'll let the One Ring do the talking for us. So they're going to take a bunch of damage here. There's his tower. Let's get his Bowmasters in. Our opponent's on 1 life. Is this an emergency Kozilek's Command? It is. I'm not sure what stops them dying. Alright, we got the game and the match. And that's the league. And this is another 4-1. I think we put on 2 or 3 4-1s with ninjas over the last few months. The deck feels pretty solid. Let's talk about it. So obviously blue-black right now in Legacy is very strong, thanks to this little guy, and Tamiyo certainly has a real part in that too. What I will say is, when we played against a blue-black tempo in that one round we lost, we did feel under the cosh a little bit. But we did draw kind of poor. We kept 2 lands, never saw a 3rd land, and just kind of got buried that way. If we'd have been able to play our spells out, things would have gone a bit better. But it's that classic trade-up of the tempo deck plays good spells. Like, each individual card in that deck is good. Whereas we're playing a few cards that aren't necessarily that good on their own. But when you get them with something, so like, I guess this is included in that pile as well. But when you link them up together, they become very strong. And the whole is better than the sum of its parts. So that's definitely a flavor perspective thing. Like, clearly, if someone's going to be breaking you up and disrupting you a lot, then it's going to sometimes be hard to stick these things. But I do like them. We showcased a bunch of things in this league. For example, Kaito, just growing our Changeling Outcast. So we plus Kaito a bunch, and then we had this 1 mana unblockable 10/10. It did die in that particular matchup, but it just shows you one of the things you can do with this deck. I do quite like the Kaito. Obviously, Psychic Frog, very good. What I will say about this deck, I didn't miss having the Ornithopters, really. We're a little bit lighter on the Ninjutsu creatures, but what I would say that we missed were some other 2-drops that we can play. So I've played builds in the past that have more Orcish Bowmasters, and also Baleful Strix. Those are things that would feel quite nice here, but we don't really have them in this particular list. I think having some Baleful Strix would be nice. Basically, Ninjas is in this weird holding pattern right now, because we all know that Psychic Frog is going to get banned in a couple of weeks, or 3 weeks, or whatever it is. And we're just kind of in this holding pattern where we have to play it because we're in the colours and it's too good not to play. But once this goes, I think Ninjas becomes a lot more interesting, because you end up with, like, okay, what do these become? If we put them as Baleful Strix, that's pretty cool. If we put them as Bowmaster, that's also pretty cool. And we can flex between the numbers a little bit, and that's quite exciting to me. And then all of a sudden, all your Ingenious Infiltrator and Yuriko stuff looks a lot better because it's not getting overshadowed by Psychic Frog. We're having 2-mana Psychic Frog style effects here, and everyone's seen how strong this card is, and we get to be the person that's still playing it. So that's something to look for when we get some bannings. I'll also say the non-Wasteland mana base, I love it. I think it's exactly where I want to be with Ninjas. I think Wasteland is obviously a powerful tool, but we can leverage our mana really well. We're drawing lots of extra cards. We want to cast spells rather than wastelanding our opponent. We're not an out-and-out tempo deck. We are more mid-rangey because we got, especially now we're playing Kaito as well. And if we are in trouble with lands in the sideboard, you can run Harbinger. We've got 2 here. You could certainly run 3 if you're really worried about that. The sideboard slots felt pretty fine. Honestly, the whole deck just feels pretty good. This was a bit of testing that I was doing. I relayed with the donor about what they wanted, and we decided to try a build that had no Ornithopters and just ran the Outcast because it has more synergy with these things. And I think we showed that works pretty well, especially when you're doing things a touch slower, when you've got 6 of these. Maybe when Psychic Frog goes, we might be running another Ingenious Infiltrator, and that changes things slightly. But I'm definitely quite big on the Outcast and Tamiyo as our 1-drops of choice here. We're including a Ornithopter as a 1-drop in this particular calculation. So yeah, I like this. The Sink of the Stupor didn't come up as a spell, but we did use it as a blue card, which was nice. A normal land wouldn't have done that, so big fan of that too. Yeah, I just really enjoy Ninjas. I think it's a really sweet deck, and I'm looking forward to exploring this a bit more once the format gets rid of some of the more egregious things in it, and we get to play a bit more interesting Magic than just, oh, I have a Psychic Frog, you didn't answer it, I guess I win the game. Alright, I hope you like this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want your decks on the channel, by all means get in touch. Although with December coming up soon, I'm only going to be playing Depths decks for a while. So maybe hold off on donations if they don't feature a Dark Depths in them. Just a heads up. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.